Okay, so I can use efficient thinking when multiplying. All right, so we've been working on a lot of different ways to show our thinking for problems like 47 times 6. And we've been really talking about the place values, the values of each of those digits, okay? So one way that we've been working on is splitting 47. How? We've been looking at how to expand that.
40 plus 7.
Okay, so we've been looking at splitting 47 into 40 and 7. And so how does that help us with 47 times 6?
Well, you could say 4 times 6.
40 times 6.
And then you could do 7 times 6.
7 times 6. So am I still taking 47 times 6? Okay? And then I work that out. And what does that work out to be?
40 times 6 is 180, and then 180.
40 times 6 is,
Because I kind of take off the 0 in the 10.
and you think about 4 times 6, so if I have 4 groups of 10 times 6, which is 24 groups of 10.
I was thinking of 30 times 6 at the time.
And so the 24 groups of 10 is 240, okay? And then 76, Kaden?
42.
Or 7 times 6? I heard him say 42. And then what happens with that? And then what happens with that? Aliana?
You gotta add up.
Why? Why do I need to add those together?
You're just, if you had the numbers together or whatever, then you'd have your answer then. But when you're doing this, you gotta do an extra step by adding.
Okay, so I like what you said. If we would have kept this together as 47, I would have known 47 times 6, I would have had it all right there, but because I split it, I was thinking about how much would 6 groups of 40 be, and then 6 groups of 7 be, so I have to put those together. And what do we call these? It tells us how many altogether, but when we multiply, it's a product, and when we find a part of the product, that's our partial product. So these are those partial products, and we put it together to find our total product, okay? Now, many of you started to ask questions about, what if we set it up this way?
I do that.
Can we solve it this way? And you started asking questions. And I said, Mrs. Malley and I talked, and we said this makes sense when you know more about the place values of these numbers, okay? So today what we're going to do is we're going to show you, we call this a shorthand.
I thought it was shortcut.
And what does shorthand mean?
Like a shortcut.
That stands for shortcut.
Like maybe you might do it a little faster.
Okay, less writing. It would be less writing. Shorthand, it's kind of less writing. So let's take a look and see where this thinking, the thinking that we've been using, our place value thinking, fits in with this method of notation. This isn't a different strategy, it's still the same thinking. It's just a different way to show our thinking, okay? And the thinking is still the same, okay? Let's see where those connects are. All right, and I'm going to use a color. So I'm going to take 6 times 7. What is 6 times 7? Logan? 42. Did I take 6 times 7 up here?
Yeah.
I did, and it was 42. Now, think about 42. What can you tell me about the number 42? Cody?
Well, the 4 stands for 4 times, and the 2 stands for 2 ones.
The 2 stands for 2 ones, and the 4 tells me I have 4 tens. So what happens here? Why would I put it here? Why would I track my thinking up here with my 4, Cody?
Because when you...
Why would I choose to track my thinking here for my 4 tens?
Because you're multiplying in one spot. It's a 10, so you just put it in the 10 spot.
Wonderful. Okay, so 7 times 6 is 42, and Cody just shared with us 42 is 4 tens and 2 ones. So I want to keep track of my thinking. I have 4 tens. I made 4 tens here, which is 40. Okay? All right, so I did 7 times 6. Now I'm going to think about 6 times 40. 40. Because what is the value of this number? 40. And this is where you're thinking, just like in here, when Emily shared with me, she thinks about 4 times 6, and then she multiplies that by 10. So can we think about the 4 times 6?
Yep.
Okay, same thing, right? So 6 times 4, Kaiden?
Well,
6 times 4?
is 240.
Okay, so, all right, you went right to that. 6 times 40 is 240.
And
What I got?
I think my sister taught me this way. And don't you add 4? No.
Yes.
Well, okay, so Kaiden helped us out with 6 times 40, which was 240. Where does this come in? Where does this come in, Hannah? Well, what do I do with that? So 6 times 40 is 240. Well, remember when we multiplied, we made 4 more tens? So where does that come in? What do I do with that? What do I do with that? Yeah. Okay, so 6 times 40 was 240. So what am I going to do with this 4 tens? Isabel? Add it to the 240. So if I have 240 plus 40, how much is that?
244.
Beyonce?
280.
280. So it's 240. Look here, 240. This was our 240 plus 40 equals 280. 280. 280. Now, what do you notice about the shorthand method? Where do I have to keep a lot of the math?
In your head.
In my head.
Or in your brain.
Okay, I'm keeping a lot of the math in my head. This type of method of notation, does that help me visually see where those numbers are coming from? Yeah, and another way of showing that alongside this is if I had 47 times 6, many of you keep track of things below. 6 times 7 is 42.
Yes, and then you just put it
6
all up
times
top.
40 is 240.
And then you'd add it.
And then I add that all up, which is 282. Now, look what happened here. So it kind of shortens it up, and I have to do a lot of the thinking in my head. I have to hold that math in my head. 6 times 7 is 42. 6 times 40 is 200. So I had 240 plus the 4, which is where the 282 comes in. So I had to do a lot more thinking in my head for the shorthand method. But if that thinking is there, and you can hold that in your head, then the shorthand method, all it means is just less writing, right? Do you still have to do all the thinking?
Yes.
Yeah, it's still just as many steps. It's still just as many steps, but I have to hold a lot more of it in my head. This, I can see it and keep it organized, okay? Whichever way it works better for you is the way you need to choose to do, how you best can keep that organized, okay? All right. Now let's take a look at when we're doing a double digit by a double digit.
Yeah, it's a
Triple digit.
Mm-hmm. Okay. We'll do a double digit by a double digit.
4 digits.
So we'll do 23 times.
You can do a dot.
I could do a dot. A dot
You can
could
do
also
like a
represent.
Dot.
And a star also means multiply too, there's lots of different symbols.
Yeah.
Okay, 23 times 14. Okay, I'm going to do it two different ways using our partial products. So here's, wait one, 23 times 14. We're going to do our partial products. We're going to keep track of all of our partial products below like we've been doing, thinking about all of our thinking, okay? 4 times 3, 12. Where do we go next? So now we have 4 times 20. 4 times 20 is 80. Do you see how I'm keeping track? I'm keeping track of my products below.
1 times 3.
Now, what is this? 10. 10 times 3 is 30.
20.
And then 10 times 20, 200.
200.
And I add those all up? And what do I make?
300. 12.
Thank you for doing that math in your head, looking for your hundreds groups. Okay, Aliana.
322.
322. Okay, 322. And I see that, so you had your 200, and I heard what you were doing here. 8 groups of 10, 3 groups of 10 is 11 groups of 10, plus another group of 10 is 12 groups of 10, which makes another 100, 2 tens, and then your 2 ones. Okay, now let's look at the shorthand method. 23 times 14, okay? Now, just like in our thinking, and many of you kind of keep track of this using your box method, where you're thinking about 20 and 3 and 10 and 4. This is where that connection comes in. Why do I multiply 4 times 3? Right? So that's where that thinking is coming, and that's where we're getting all those partial products from. So now, let's go and see what our shorthand method is going to look like. 4 times 3 is 12. Okay, and 12 is what? 2 and 1
goes up there.
10. So where do I put, instead of keeping my 12 together, where did I put my 10? Hannah? I put it up here in my tens place. That's telling me I made another 10. Okay? 4 times 20 is 80. Plus the 10 group makes 90. 90. So I have 92. Where do you see 92 over here?
There's 9.
Colby?
80 plus 12.
80 plus 12. Right here. This is right in here. This is where the 90 and 2. 92. Okay? Well, so we did 3 times 4, and we did 4 times 20. So now, I'm going to multiply my 10. I'm going to multiply my 10. 10 times 3. 30. 30. How do I notate that? And I'm going to keep track of my partial products below. 30, because now I just did this first partial product. Now I'm going to do my second set of partial products. 30. What is that? Hannah? How many tens groups? 3 tens group is 30. So 10 times 3 is 30. I'm starting my new partial product down here. Then, Logan, 10 times 20. What is 10 times 20? 200. Where would I record my 200? So that I can show 200. Or can I record it in a place value right here? 230. So then what am I going to do with my partial products? Add them up. Now let's take a look where we see this. 10 times 3 is 30. There's the 30. There's the 30. 10 times 20 is 200. There's the 200.